Good morning. Fortune here on Fortune Adventures. Thanks for joining. Just going to do a short little video today to answer a question that is the great debate amongst hikers and enthusiasts and fans. So I'm going to answer it and tackle that question head on today. My opinion and my opinion only. However, you should all have the same opinion. I'm totally joking. But it's my opinion. So, first I'm going to talk about it from a novice point of view, someone who maybe doesn't hike, just likes to follow the channel or other channels where thru hikers are. But the big question, what is a thru hike? What constitutes a thru hike? What is the difference between a thru hike and a section hike and a lash and all of these other types of hikes that we hear thrown around all the time? First, I'm going to talk about music. So, as most of you know, music is a big part of my life. I've been playing instruments since before I could really write a paragraph. Started on the drums, moved to piano, and then played guitar after that, and now I play 9 different instruments. I sing, I write, all kinds of things revolved around music. So I'm very passionate about music. My influences come from punk rock and Motown and jazz and blues, a little bit of everything. So those of you who know music a little bit, enough to know that there's way too many labels. You have jazz, you have fusion jazz, you have blah, 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 you have blues, you have Delta blues, Chicago blues. You have rock. Oh my goodness, how many subgenres do we have of rock? You have classic rock, you have metal, you have new metal, you have grunge, you have post-grunge, you have punk pop, you have, oh my goodness. It's very similar to that. It's just a bunch of labels. At the end of the day, the labels don't really matter. So let's dive in. Remember that I told you that because we'll come back to that in a second. What is a thru hike? So imagine you're driving through a road and you see a sign that says this is not a through street. What does that mean? It means you can't go through something. It dead ends, it stops at some point. You can't get through to the other side that you're wanting to get through to, or it doesn't connect you through to another road. A thru hike is simply hiking from here to here, a point A to point B hike. So let's back that up a little bit. What different types of hikes do we have? Well, we have a loop, which is you start here and you circle around. Or it doesn't have to be a circle for my geography majors out there. I'm sorry, geometry, wow, geography. But that's one type. And the other type is what's called an out and back. So you're starting here at point A, you're coming up here, and you're returning to point A. And then you have a point A to point B, which is you start here, you end up here. Usually that means that somebody's picking you up here, or there's a car there, or somewhere you have a way of getting out of there going to where you're going after that, instead of coming all the way back to where you started. Those, in a nutshell, are the only 3 types of hikes. Are there variations? Of course. Are there other labels? Of course. But at the end of the day, those are the 3 type of hikes. You can go in a loop, or hectagon, oxagon, meaning you're coming back to where you started, or you can do an out and back, coming back to where you started, or a point A to point B, you're starting at one spot, going to the other. That, for all intents and purposes, is a thru hike. Now there's different levels of that. There's a day hike, there's a section hike, there's a multi-day, multi-month, long distance hike. A long distance hike is not a necessity to be a thru hike. Now, most of us understand that a thru hike is not just one day. It's not a day hike. You have to stay overnight. You have to stay overnight for a couple times, but not necessarily. An example would be in South Carolina, the Foothills Trail. It's 70-something miles. Most people get that done in 3 to 5 to 7 days. I did it in 3 days earlier this year. You have another trail in North Carolina called the Art Loeb Trail. That is, right off the top of my head, about 40 miles. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But it's a 2 or 3 day hike. If you're doing good miles, you could turn it into a 4 or 5 day hike if you wanted. If you're doing 8 or 10 miles a day, if you're doing a high amount of miles like what I do on a normal basis when I'm out doing something like that, it's 2 or 3 days at most. There is no limit to what causes a through hike. This is where our brains come in. This is where our opinions come in. This is where things that actually, to be quite honest, annoy the tar out of me comes in. And that's the fact that everybody has their own opinion of different types of things. You have something called a lash, which is a long arse section hike is what it stands for. And then you have, I'm watching my P's and Q's obviously because I don't know who's watching this video. There could be kids and family watching, so I'm not just going to throw around the words, that would offend some people out there. You have that type of hike. You have what's called a section hike. A section hike is where you do a section. Technically, a section hike is a through hike. It's a type of through hike because you're going from here to here. For example, if you're doing the Appalachian Trail and you go from one end of Georgia to the other, that's a section. But it's also a through hike. You through hiked through the Appalachian Trail portion of Georgia. You through hike through the North Carolina section of the Appalachian Trail. You through hike through the Virginia section of the Appalachian Trail. At the end of the day, a through hike just means you're going through something. You're going from point A to point B. Unfortunately, one of the big phrases in the hiking community is hike your own hike. That is a great phrase. Unfortunately, people use it for bad, and they use it for a condescending way, and they use it for like, whatever, hike your own hike. It's almost like a flip off, and it's just wrong. The whole reason we go out and hike is to get away from society, to get away from the hatefulness and the judging and the speed and just what society brings, and to get back to the basics, which is nature and peace and serenity and simpleness. Simpleness. So I find it very ironic and funny that we, as hikers, have decided we're just going to make a list of labels to put on what we're doing so that we can, not everybody's doing this, but a lot of people do, say in a condescending way to someone what it is they did. I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've seen people through hike a certain section of the AT. Through hike a section of the AT. Just to get ridiculed and condescended. Well, you didn't finish, so you're not a through hiker. BS. That is ridiculous. If they went 100 miles, 200 miles, 500 miles, 1,000 miles, whatever, they went from point A to point B, they through hiked. They might not have through hiked the entirety of the Appalachian Trail, but they through hiked that section they did. Never let yourself be made less by somebody's opinion. And unfortunately, there's way too much of that in the hiking community, and I can't stand it. We are supposed to be supportive and loving of each other and caring about other individuals, or just don't care and back off and don't put your opinion in there. There's too much of that. You don't care, but you put your opinion in to make somebody feel less of what they did, and it's just wrong. I'll tell you this, this last year I did the Appalachian Trail in its entirety. The year before that I did 1,650 miles of the Appalachian Trail. I had to get off because of an injury. The only reason I didn't come back was because I had a prior obligation and I wouldn't have had enough time to finish the trail after healing from the injury. There ain't nobody on God's green earth that's going to tell me I didn't through hike 1,650 miles. And this video is not about me, by the way. I could care less what y'all's opinion of me is when it comes to whether it's a through hike or not. I'm simply saying we have way too many labels. At the end of the day, the simplified answer to what is a through hike, it's going from point A to point B. If you went 200 miles and you want to consider that as you just through hike 200 miles, you do that. Don't let somebody else make you feel bad for what you did that might not have lived up to their expectations of what they want you to do. Because most of the time, they're sitting on the couch and they're not doing anything, and they're living vicariously through you or whatnot. Just don't let people judge you. Do what's right for you. If you want to consider that a through hike, do that. If you want to consider that a section hike, do that. If you want to consider that a lash, do that. But there's too many subgenres, just like music. Punk is punk. Yes, there's a heavier punk and a lighter punk. There's jazz. There's fusion jazz. There's New Orleans jazz. There's all kinds of jazz. But at the end of the day, it's jazz. We can keep labeling till we're blue in the face. It doesn't change the fact that, oh, I like that song. Oh, I like that song. Oh, I thru-hike this section. Oh, I section hike this section. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. And I hope this helps somebody out there, because I see way too much of it when I'm on a trail thru-hiking and I run into the other thru-hikers or section hikers or day hikers, and they tell me their stories about, oh, yeah, I'm just a section hiker. I've only do a couple 100, 300 miles. And they say it in a way like they're not allowed to say that they're thru-hiking that section. You're a thru-hiker too. If you're spending the night and you're going from point A to point B and you're putting in those miles and you're grinding through and you're trying to get from here to here and you're doing it, you're a thru-hiker. I don't care what anyone says, and I might have a whole bunch of people disagree with me, but I don't care, because at the end of the day, it's up to you. If you want to consider that a thru-hike, you go ahead and do that. So, in a nutshell, what is this? What is this video answering? What is a thru-hike? It is simple. Point A to point B. Doesn't matter if it's 50 miles or 5,000 miles. That's a thru-hike. Keep thru-hiking. Keep pushing forward, keep adding to those miles, but most importantly, keep living life. Next time.